G'day everybody. Just a quick update after our meeting last Wednesday night at the Novotel where Bryce Courtney was our key speaker. Just an absolutely fabulous night. Every one of you that came, I thank you for coming. It was a cold, blustery night. I was certainly feeling the cold, so thank you all for coming. We had hundreds of people there. Over 100 of you handed in where you wanted to come and see Kevin and I for the next releases that we've got, either in super or just normal property. So with that in mind, I've set up a meeting next Tuesday night at the Wentworth Sofitel in Bligh Street. That's the 22nd of June. We'll start at about 6:30. I'll have you out of there by 7:30. I want to go through the cash flows for super. I want to go through the other three properties that we talked about. We've got one in Sydney in Chatswood. We've got Brisbane. Two sites up there in Fortitude Valley that I'm particularly keen on, and of course Darwin, another site I've got up there that I wanted to let everyone know about. So if you can book that in for everyone who did hand in, specifically try and come along to that. It'll help me out on time rather than sit down with 100 people individually. As you can imagine, time is of the essence. So we've emailed that out, and Danielle will be organising that for Tuesday night. So that's great. Now, and other things we discussed on the night, and what we're doing is sending out a PDF that's attached to this with the figures that we actually used on the night. Really interesting stuff. So I'll start with interest rates if I could. Fixed rates are dropping, as you'll all be aware, on the news and everything you're hearing. So it's a good time to lock in right now at the rates are 6.84 from memory to 6.99 for 2 years, but don't lock in for some of you grey hairs out there that may be selling over the next 2 years. And if you are selling, I made a big point on last Wednesday night, contact us first, because I can't have too many people in the same building selling. So as we go through this next little boom cycle, very important that you contact us first so we can coordinate the whole deal, either through the agents that we use, and the key one there is of course McGrath Real Estate, who's doing an excellent job for us. John McGrath has given us his key guys, and they're really doing a great job. So just on interest rates, because there is some talk in the press about rates going up to 10%, and I've just done a quick calculation here. Our current rate, the average current discounted rate, is 6.64. It would take us 14 rises to get to 10%. So just be very careful. When you're reading in the paper where they're saying interest rates will be 10% by this time next year, it simply will not happen. There is no way in the world 14 rises on top of the 6 that we've already had would absolutely kill Australia. So Mark Burris from Wizard was on the TV the other day saying it won't go to 10. John Simons was on TV as late as yesterday saying it won't go to 10. But do the math, start at 6.64 and then start adding 0.25 and you'll end up with the same figures as me. 14 rises will take us to 10.14, which would be absolutely impossible given the economic situation around the world. So if you want to lock in, 6.8 to 6.99 is a really good rate. But don't lock in if you're going to sell in the next 2 or 3 years, because your break costs will exceed any benefit that you got. The next thing we talked about was price rises of what we're expecting, and the graph that I had up on the screen was from BIS Shrapnel, a guy called Frank Gelber, who's a really good researcher that I've used for years at BIS Shrapnel, and he's predicting 40% rises until 2013. Where he's saying then we'll have their next lull. So just quoting here from the Daily Telegraph, the mean price of Sydney property now is $625. Houses across the metropolitan area of Sydney will average more than $1 million by 2020. If you look back 10 years ago, Sydney's median value was fairly low by comparison to today, and 20 years ago, John Edwards, the chief executive of Residex, said they weren't even 200,000. So Daily Telegraph is prompting 625 to over $1 million median. This day tonight, which I tell you all not to watch because it's such rubbish, but they've used a guy called Terry Ryder, who's, you know, sort of okay, but this is what they said. Terry Ryder said, I think you could conservatively say that house prices do double every 10 years if you look at the past 40 years. He's suggesting that by 2020, he's suggesting again that the average price in Sydney would be over $1 million. So they're all using the same factors there. That was on this day tonight on the April the 7th, 2009. So that's what they're saying about price rises. I'm sticking with Frank Gilber, who has been pretty accurate over the last 2 or 3 decades that I've been reading his stuff, and I'm putting about 30 to 40% as well by 2012, 2013. So the other thing we wanted to just quickly look at that I tucked with price rises, if we go back, and you're all going to get this on your PDF, so do study it, the 17% interest rates from 1989 to 2002 didn't kill prices. They started at 144.5, which was the average price of units, Sydney, in 1989, and by 1992, after nearly 3.5 years of 17% interest rates, the prices were 149,500. Let's put that into Sydney units when from 03 to 08, where basically you just broke even, there was no rises. They bottomed at 333, down from 388 at the end of Christmas 03. By 06 that had dropped to 333, and by the end of 07 they got back up to 395. So you can see that oversupply created a massive fall in prices. But right now, again in the PDF, unlock it and have a look at that. For the last 3 to 4 months in Sydney, since the start of this year, we've been averaging over 1% per month. In the month of April, our average price of a unit in Sydney went up over $10,000. So we are in our boom cycle now. I'm preferring not to call it a boom. I'm simply calling it a catch-up to where we should have been had we bought in 2003, where we should be by now. All of our people that have bought in 98, 99, and we're selling some of those as we speak through McGrath's agency, and we are doubling our money there, so that's working very well. The other three graphs that caught everyone's notice, and I'll just hold them up here, supply and demand. When you unlock the PDF, have a look at these. What I want you to notice is that Sydney's undersupply is dramatic, and the Brisbane is nearly as dramatic, and Darwin has been in an undersupply now since 05, and Darwin now is the second most expensive city in Australia to buy. Its average price is $560, Melbourne is $540, Sydney about $620, $625. So you'll see the effect of undersupply on pricing, and that's why Darwin is performing so well and will continue to perform so well, because it's a landlocked harbour city with nowhere else to build, and I'm still pushing Darwin. I've purchased another 2 properties there just this week in the product that I'm going to show you all next Tuesday night. So in summary, the market is great. Don't listen to negative talk. Try if you can to come along to all of our meetings. The over 100 people who handed in last Wednesday night, if you could do your best to get there next Tuesday night, it's really beneficial to me, and we can go through a lot of cash flows and everything with one big group, and then have a discussion group about each of the properties. Again, I'm talking about McLaughlin Street, Fortitude Valley in Brisbane, Mosaic, another building up there, and Soho in Darwin, and I've got another 2 projects in Darwin that I want to show cash flows, and then I'm going to show cash flows outside of super and cash flows inside of super. So as many of you as possible, come along to that, and the market is very healthy, and will continue that way now, and we're in a really good cycle. So unlock that PDF, have a look at the price increases since 1979, and you will realise that the last decade's been the worst decade on record. Isn't that fabulous for all of us? But that's the way it is. But the next decade will be very up and down, but I'm suggesting by 2020 we're all in a very good spot. But a lot of you are going to be out by 2012, 2013. So stay in contact with us very closely over the next couple of years, so that we can get you out as I see the market coming around to that. So great talking to you all again. I'll see hopefully 100 of you there next Tuesday night, and I'll be back talking to you in a few weeks. Thanks again.